Oh hi. Yalta, the resort and the port on the southern coast of the Crimea. Distinguish actually the city and so-called Big Yalta, the territory more than 70 km long including Yalta. Administrative center. Alupka and a set of settlements. Big Yalta stretches from Foros in the west to Krasnokamenka in the east. Administratively, Big Yalta is made by the city district Yalta. The Yalta City Council. Etymology. According to the most widespread version, the name of the city happens from coast. However, there are hypotheses that the name of the city has the Turkic origin, having in the basis the distorted initial Greek name. We find the first mention of Yalta dated 1154 at the Arab historian Al-Idrisiya. He calls ships biscuit. Also to Kaulit or Dalit. The Kamenski. The Loftsian. City on the Black Sea coast. From the Crimean Tatar Yalta it is transferred as Ashur. Yalta is in the south of the Crimean Peninsula on the bank of the Yalta Gulf Black Sea. In the southern part of the Crimean Peninsula the Crimean Mountains rises. They represent a complex combination of small ridges, rocky crests and hollows. Yalta was stretched on three hills on the seashore in valleys of two mountain small rivers of karst origin, Wachangsu waterfall, and Derkoiki fast. Yalta is in spacious natural amphitheater. From the land the city is surrounded with a half ring of mountains. To the north and the northwest there passes the Yalta Yala with mountains Kamalagarik. 1530 m. Jada Breaker. 1423 m. Lapat. 1406 m. Endik. 1358 m. And others. To the northeast from it the spur of the Nikitsky Yala with a vine's top. 1473 m. Departs, gradually going down to the sea, it comes to an end with the Cape of Nikitsky. Margin. To the west and the southwest from Yalta the cone-shaped mountain Mogabi. 804 m. Rises. Her southern slope comes to an end by the sea with the Cape Otodar and also the Opatrinsky Yala with mountains Roka. 1349 m. And now understand. 1234 m. In the city hill Darsan Towers, and be near home Slava. Further behind hills the spur Iograph begins. In Big Yalta the set of parks, the most known of them, Levadia and Vorontsovsky, is created. In the Levadia Park the known walking imperial track also begins. The Botkin track conducting from Yalta to Rokstavrykoye and the Shtangevsky track rising from Falls Wachangsu by the Opatrinsky Yala draw attention of tourists. The lower Oryanda, Melazanchera remarkable for city visitors, also Haraksky, Gurov, Kiparisny, Muskorsky, Masandrovsky, Foros and Seaside. In Yalta, these parks were created on the basis of the nature of the south, careful wood with wide use of foreign ornamental plants. In the territory of Big Yalta there is the Yalta Mountain and Forest Nature Reserve. Residential districts. Yalta is conditionally divided by Hill Darsan into two areas, to east and western Yalta, that is near the rivers Fast and Waterfall respectively. At the same time Hill Darsan belongs to East Yalta and the embankment to the western Yalta. The western Yalta. The most elite and warm residential district of Yalta is the Seaside Park. Main streets. Communards, Parkavy Drive. To the west of the Seaside Park, the residential district T Hill is located. Main streets. Sechenov, Dostoevsky, Red Army, Blucher, Griboidov, Suvorov, Levadia, Builders, Sherbek, Gorky, Torian, Volodarsk, Balaklava. To the north of the T Hill, there are residential districts Avantgarde. To the south of River, Waterfall, Spartak. To the north of River, Waterfall, and Chekovo. To the north of River, Waterfall, and to the west of Spartak. Main streets. Burikova, Pioneer, Kachera, Pirogovskaya, January Bulevsky. Marshik, Lomonosov, Katalnikov, Kuhan. Kirov, Bogdanovich, Museum, River, Voroshilov, January Tarvotsky, Bolshevist. To the north of the residential district Avantgarde is located the 10th residential district. Main streets. Timoryazov, Krupskaya, Red Gorillas, Shores, Halterin, Chernov, Furman, Grigoriev. To the southeast, the 10th residential district, there is Embankment. Main streets. Sevastopol, Gogol, Botkin, Pushkin, Togliatti, Chekhov, Roosevelt, Ignatenko, Ekaterinensky, C. Karl Marx. East Yalta. To the north of the embankment, the residential district, Darsan, and to the north of it, the residential district, Inideriko, is located. Main streets. Miskorsky, Nut, Leningrad, Nadyanova, Worker, Voykova, Darsanovskaya, Vertanovin, average in Darsanovskaya, Nizanovskaya, Vetranov. To the east of Darsan there is a residential district, Vegetable Market, or Central Market. Main streets. Kiev, Moscow, Dzerzhinsky, Krivashta, Kardin, Spendiarov, Radansky. To the north of the Vegetable Market, the residential district, Vasilievka, is located. Main streets. H. The Triulianov, Adamanov, Kazantsev Mountain, Subki, Rapina, Yaliboyskaya, Jaffa Sedimet, Krasmashinik, Don. To the east of the Vegetable Market, there is a residential district, Friendship. Main streets. Mukina, Sverdlova, Pool, Polikarovsky, Mountain. To the south of Friendship, the residential district of Dzerzhinsky is located. Main streets. Dzerzhinsky, Masandrovskaya, Tolstoy, Danchenko, Upper Suburban, Average and Suburban, Lower Suburban, Turistov Highway. Natural resources. Among all resources of Yalta, the most important role is played by recreational. An important medical and climatic resource of Big Yalta are reserves. Yalta Mountain and Forest. Area of 14.5 thousand hectares. Cape Markin. Area of 240 hectares. The Crimean Natural. The value of monuments of landscape gardening art of the state and local value. 415 hectares. Local parks and squares. 1472 hectares. Is high. The biggest parks of Yalta are Masandrovsky, Levadia, Miskorsky, Alupka. Climate. Yalta is approximately at 1 geographic latitude with the known Italian cities of Genoa and Ravenna. Yalta is in the center of the southern coast of the Crimea and is one of the warmest places of the Crimea. The sun shines here on average 20 to 50 hours in a year. It is about the same how many in Sochi. Climate of Yalta, Mediterranean up to the height of 300 m above sea level. Above this level Srednyanesty temperatures fall already below 2°C and vegetation gradually loses the subtropical character. It is characterized in the soft and rainy winter, in the cool spring, in the hot and long summer and in the long warm fall. The most important role is played by a combination of the warm, non-freezing sea and the Crimean mountains which rise a wall by ways of cold winds. The humidity of air in Yalta is low, on average 70%. That defines the nature of vegetation and is reflected in a medical profile of the resort. An average annual amount of precipitation -609. Average speed of wind equals 1.9 m/s. On a zone of frost resistance of Usta, Yalta surely keeps in zone 9A. Average annual temperature equals +14.3 C. Average temperature of July of +25.2 C, August of +25.7 C, average temperature of January of +4.8 C. In frosty winters, at invasion of a cold Arctic cyclone, a Siberian anticyclone temperature can decrease to 10 C and below. At the same time, quite often there are even in January really warm, sunny days when the thermometer shows +20 C. January 2006 was abnormally cold for Yalta. Temperature fell up to 10.2 C. The beaches of Yalta created by the nature gradually collapsed because of strong landslides. Only people closer to the middle of the 20th century undertook to stop landslides and to create beautiful, comfortable beaches. The retaining walls which counterbalanced loading of slopes were put up. In the seabed trenches which filled up with a stone were dug. Floating cranes established 100-ton grinds between which millions of cubic meters of crushed stone lay down. Having ground it, the sea completed work of builders. Artificial beaches are created even now in those places which were considered as absolutely unadapted for bathing quite recently. Now on both sides of Yalta, from the west and from the east, the place of uncomfortable landslide breaks was taken by tidy beaches. As of fall of 2014, practically all beaches deep-water pebble, not absolutely convenient for bathing of small children, but with very clear water. As a rule, as a support for them serves the concrete embankment to which concrete breakwaters are poured. Also beaches of sanatoria and boarding houses which are also open for all comers today are located. I understand the medical beach, the solar beach, the beach of a name of Maurice Torres, the beach of Yalta Hotel, the beach of Sanatorium Mountain, the Sanatorium Beach. The beach of Levant Hotel in Primorsky Park which is near a mineral source pump room. Beaches of Yalta are divided by groins. This certain place is also taken by the tiny beaches formed of ledges on the embankment. In small territories there is no opportunity to provide the high level of service, however everywhere where it is possible, pebble is filled, and during a high season all of them are, as a rule, crowded with vacationers. Almost all beaches of Yalta have the high level of service, are equipped with toilets, sols, a set of outlets, cafe and even massage offices. Practically everywhere water attractions, rent of plank beds, umbrellas and even the water transport are offered. At the same time, beaches of the Crimea have also many minuses: frequent discomfort, existence of garbage, too high fillability by vacationers. That is the shortage of beaches. In all these parameters, beaches of Yalta concede European and many other. Extent of beaches of Big Yalta -59 km, their area -600,000 m. The prestigious World Award, Blue Flag, in Yalta in different years was got. The Masandrovsky Beach, the most well-planned and clean beach. This is his first owner of this award, the beach of Yalta in Tourist Hotel, and also the beach of Sanatorium Levadia. The Masandrovsky Beach in 2012 got the award, Blue Flag, for the third time. Flora and fauna. In total, in the territory of the Yalta Reserve, about 200 plant species grow. Slopes of Yalta are covered with the much of olive oak woods and shrubby thickets of moderate and subtropical character. The abundance of both local and overseas species of evergreen plants does the woods attractive years at all times. The base system is made a pine ordinary, grows on the Yale, and a pine cremine grows below, but along with them meet a juniper, an oak, Stevens maple, an oak fluffy, an oak rocky, an aspen, a beech, a cedar, a hornbeam, birch barks, a cornel, a yew, a mountain ash, pear, and also are a lot of other trees and bushes. Tree plants exitam also so habitual for yuck. Cypress, magnolia, wisteria, fan palm tree, butcher's broom, lankaran acacia, laurel's noble, ash tree, scumpia, fir, plane tree, fig, granatnik, agave, prickly pear. Flora of the mountain Crimea has 672 appearance and 472 sorts, the general with flora of the island of Corsica. A juniper high, a pine cremine, an oak fluffy, wild pistachio, a zelianitnik small fruited, and many others belong to the Mediterranean types. Many of the Mediterranean plants run wild and extend independently. In Yalta, the beautiful woods, natural boundaries, gorges and upper courses of the rivers. Feature of the cremine flora also in its saturation alien plant species and in continuous vegetation of many plants when the last flowers of fall are followed immediately by spring. In the winter, in juniper forests the butcher's broom blossoms, in January the galanthus, in February snowdrops blossoms, then almonds, a bagrianic, apricot and peach trees blossom. The self-careful woods play extremely important soil protective and water preserving role, and therefore are announced by reserved. The natural rest, relict, of more ancient Mediterranean vegetation is on the Cape Markin. It is the juniper grove which since 1973 is the reserve under the name Cape Markin. The city of Yalta, especially his old part, which from height of bird's flight seems the continuous green park with impregnations of houses, differs in abundance of greens. "164 plant species of the Crimea and in particular Yalta are included in the Red List of Russia. Among them there are such types of yupkes: juniper high, butcher's broom hypoglossal, zelianitnik small fruited, yewberry, tulip two floral, crocus narrow-leaved, kuznetsov cyclamen, peony tonkalistny and others. Like the Red List, lists of the rare and disappearing ecosystems demanding special protection are formed today. The fauna of the southern coast of the Crimea has island character and differs in proximity to the Mediterranean type. On the southern coast of the Crimea there are no large animals. Representatives of fauna prevail: typical For the Crimea, a Crimean red deer, a roe, a mountain ram mouflon, a stone marten, a badger, a squirrel teleduck. It is delivered in 1947. A wild boar, a marten caress, a fox, a hare, a hedgehog, a shrew, a bat. Reptiles are few, more largely than a legless Yalta nobody meets. Only two types of ears, water and ordinary, live. Occasionally also other reptiles, a Yalta runner, a leopard runner, the Crimean gecko, a Mudyanka meat, but they aren't poisonous. The small weak-night lizard from family of geckos, a Polypally gecko of Danilevsky, is peculiar to the southern coast. She lives in a small amount in cracks of walls, cellars and cellars. From amphibians are allocated a green toad, wood and edible frogs, a triton. Invertebrates are generally presented by the Mediterranean forms. Meets many cicadas, mantises, mosquitoes, scolopendras, the Crimean scorpions, endemic Crimean ground beetles. Sometimes it is possible to meet a big Olindrovi bravnik. In the conditions of the Yalta climate also there live many wreckers, such as apple tree fir seed moth, silkworms, various weevils. Belong to wreckers of vineyards. Grape, Grozdovi listovyotka, Crimean wingless grasshopper and others. Birds are a widespread mountain porridge, on slopes martins, city swallows, titmouses of a blue tit, crossbills, reguluses, mountain porridge and also a falconcheglik nest. On seaside rocks, colonies of big cormorants, are more rare than sitting ducks and seagulls lotters. Signature stamps meat. Because of rather high concentration in deep waters of the Black Sea of hydrogen sulfide, all life of the sea is generally concentrated in the top sheets of water. In the summer at the coast jellyfishes, such as Aurelia aurita, Erisotoma and others accumulate. In the Black Sea 180 species of fish, from them about 40 trade are known. At coast of Yalta catch Amsa, mullet, bullcalves, jack mackerel, flounder, horse mackerel, coatfish and others. Occasionally sea roosters meet. The shark, a spiny dogfish, is found in the Black Sea, but she doesn't attack people. From mammals at coast it is possible to see dolphins who treat zubati whales. They live in the high sea, go jams, avoid shallow water, don't love muddy water. From water inhabitants it is also possible to mark out the freshwater crab who is found under stones in some small rivers of the Crimea. For example, Wachangsu. Also they live under stones on the seashore. Since 1966 trade of dolphins in the Black Sea is forbidden. In the Black Sea more than 200 species of various seaweed, brown, red, green, blue-green also grow. The transport load to the main highways of Yalta in the summer in the afternoon makes 900–1600 units an hour. In wintertime large emission sources in the atmosphere are boiler houses as process of their concentration and modernization of clearing systems goes slowly. Only in their Yalta there are more than 200. Along the coast and in low places the city of Alupka, Samiz, Foros, Carreras, Gaspra is marked out 3–7 multiple excess of PDD. The maximum concentration of carbon monoxide on the Simferopol highways reach 6 maximum allowable concentrations, on Yalta -3.5 maximum allowable concentrations that can be connected with use of low-quality fuel. In connection with the unsatisfactory solution of questions of protection of atmospheric air, water supply and the sewerage by Sanitary and Epidemiological Service of the Crimea, it was rejected in 1998 from coordination of 36 of 308 considered projects of withdrawal of the land plots under construction of facilities. 11.7%. 64 construction projects from 395 presented. 16.2%. Specific weight of emissions from motor transport which makes in Yalta, as well as in Simferopol, up to 90% of total quantity. According to experts of December 23, 2011, in Yalta average concentration of benzpyrene almost twice exceeds norm that allows to rank Yalta as the cities with bad ecological condition. In the middle of March 2012, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development allocated 10 million hryvnias for modernization of the Yalta sewerage and prevention of dumping of the crude drains into the Black Sea. Despite it, treatment facilities of Yalta as of July 2013 are in very bad condition. In this regard, sewage periodically gets to water at the beaches adjacent to a zone of port, including the Masandrovsky beach. In April 2012, the problem of bad cleaning of garbage from streets of Yalta was lifted. As the authorities don't provide the due level of cleaning of streets, Yaltanets had to scavenge independently during several community work days. In September 2012, returned to a question of holding community work days. Yaltinsa will begin to clean the city on Saturdays since October 2012 before reduction of the city in an order. History. On the outskirts of the city and on the Polikarovsky Hill and also on the mountain the Cat, near Semiz, the Cape Odder, to Aidag, and archaeologists found the remains of settlements of tourists in other places, aboriginals of the Crimea. Finds belong approximately to the 6th-5th centuries BB. Tourists were engaged in piracy, fishery, Motizny agriculture, hunting and distant pasture cattle breeding, leading a semi-settled life. On a legend, actually, Yalta was founded by the Greek seafarers who, having seen the coast after long wanderings, and called the settlement of Yalta coastal. It is possible that this settlement is mentioned at antique grammar of the 3rd century Elia Erodiana under a name. In one list with Chersonese. Further on this coast the Venetian merchants, then Genoa, lodged. In documents and on cards of the 14th century, Yalta is called as Yalita, Kality, Giality and Natality. In the summer of 1475 the territory of the Crimea, including Yalta, was occupied by Ottoman Turks. The southern coast, and also some other the states of Crimea, were directly a part of the Ottoman Empire. The foothills and a steppe part were assigned to the vassal Blistatel-Naporti, the Crimean Khanate. In the second half of the 15th century Yalta was destroyed by an earthquake. Only 70 years later this area Greeks and Armenians occupied again. Most likely, since then the modern name was also assigned to the settlement. According to other version, the etymology of a word prevails, the name from Old Turkic, yol, rest, and ta, daig, the mountain. What can literally be translated as, the having a rest mountain, the sleeping mountain. The third version of etymology of the word Yalta, from Turkic yol, have a rest. It, do. It was called at the beginning of Yalit.
by the time of annexation of the Crimea to the Russian Empire in April 1783, as a result of resettlement of the Christian population of the Crimea in Priozovi in 1778 and Massachusetts emigration of the Crimean Tatars to Turkey, Yalta practically became deserted and represented a small fishing village.
The 19th century. In 1823 the Count M.S. Vorontsov, being the Governor-General of the Novorossiysk region which part the Crimea was then, distributed in Yalta 200 tides of the earth with a construction condition on this earth and cultivation of gardens, vineyards.
On the southern coast, new owners of lands, hands of serfs, built luxurious palaces, country houses, mansions, put industrial gardens and vineyards, magnificent parks which decorate Yuzhno-Breshchi also today.
Nasandrovsky, Alupka, Gurov, Livadia, and others. The area needed a certain center, and the choice fell on Yalta in spite of the fact that it was at the time absolutely tiny village. This choice was dictated by a relief amount of fresh water sufficient for those times and comfortable bay. In 1838 the Yalta County was formed. The decree of April 15, 1838 Yalta received the status of the city, but contained then only 30 yards and 130 inhabitants. In 1837 the gravel road constructed by order of the Count Vorontsov connected Yalta with Alushta and Simferopol, and in 1848 the road through Baydarsky Gate to Sevastopol was constructed. Yalta at the time had no seaport yet. Like built at the end of the 1830th years, destroyed a storm. Steamships stopped on raid and were reported with the coast by means of the launches approaching wooden pier it stood on anchors. In several years in Yalta the full-fledged seaport and the mooring was constructed. The sea message gradually got better. After the end of the Crimean War the city turns into the popular resort and quickly grows. Professor S.P. Botkinin especially, lived in Yalta is a lot of years. Dr. 5. N.
Mitriev made accurate medical recommendations and justifications in connection with curative properties of local climate. For these reasons the Livadia and Masandrovsky palaces by order of the Emperor Alexander III were built. The emperor was ill much, therefore in the 1890th years he for months lived in the small Livadia palace where he died in October 1894. Also private construction was developed. In Kararis the palace of the Prince Yusupov, one of rich men of Russia, in Semiz the Count D.A. Milutin appeared, the Privy Councillor P. 1. Gubanin began to own Gurov, in Miss Kernarishkin's Dachov, Sofiev, in Gaspar, romantic Alexandria, of the Prince Golitsyn was built, the lower Oryanda attracted to the Grand Duke Konstantin Nikolaevich. In 1886 according to instructions of the Emperor Alexander III the new project on construction of a powerful stone pier and a coasting embankment is developed. The first stage of construction came to the end in 1890, the second in 1903. The embankment of Yalta was the second important project of the 1880th years. In 1888-1898 the new water supply system is constructed. Construction of the sewerage began in 1886. In September 1890 the Prince Vladimir Trubetskoy submitted the application to Town Council for construction at his household of a garden arbor in the Greek style with an exit to Pushkinsky Boulevard. The famous architect Nikolai Krasnov became the author of the project of an arbor. In 2008 in Yalta full restoration of an arbor, under the leadership of the Yalta architect A.
Tchenko was made. By the end of the 19th century, Yalta turned into a rather known resort. Prestigiousness, in the opinion of landowner and official public, was promoted also by the fact that, since 1868 years, the closest suburb of Yalta, Livadia, becomes the southern residence of imperial family. City self-government.
In 1870, in the Russian Empire, city reform, as a result of which Sisislavny city institutions of local government, city councils and justices began to be formed, was undertaken.
In the fall of 1871 in Yalta there took place the first elections to city council. Public thought selected the first mayor, the Chamberlain, the valid councillor of state Sergei Pavlovich Galahav.
For health reasons he often left the city on treatment, and in April 1872 submitted the application for addition of a rank of the Yalta mayor. However, the majority of 15 vowels of city council voted for continuation of his service, but soon after all Christopher Lebeshi temporarily began to carry out his duties. In October 1872 the 29-year-old titular councillor Vladimir Antonovich Rybitsky was elected the mayor. In 1879, from a duty of the Yalta city's mayor, it was released by the Baron Andrei of Ludovich von Wrangel.
1824-1897. The brother of the General W. 50. Wrangel. 5a.
Rybitsky for 43 years to the consisting vowels of the Yalta City Council, and at the end of the 19th century together with the second wife Elena Ivanovna
Vazovskaya. For merits before society ranked as nobility, 2 more terms took up a position of the mayor of Yalta in the 20th century. From December 20, 1907 to 1914. After him, Ivan Antonovich Dumbods was a city's mayor. The 20th century. Since 1900 the first newspaper, Yaltinsky Listik, begins to light city life. In 25 years after issue of the first issue of the Krymsky Listik newspaper to be 1904 year 55 workers, in 59 craft -620 worked at 4 small factory enterprises. The power plant. Power of her engines in 1910 was 700 horsepower. Is the same year built.
In 1870 at the Magarevsky wine vault the Anakhimachevsky laboratory began to work.
Under the leadership of the famous winemakers A.P. Serbulenko A.G. Salomon S.F. Ukremenko and Master of Arts. Pavrenko standards of high-quality Russian sweet wines were created. On the eve of World War I, the tobacco factory, 2 limi plants, 3 plants of artificial mineral waters and ice became operational. Transport service carried out the agency of the Russian Society of Shipping Company and Trade. The local fleet consisted of 2 small steamboats. The post and cable office worked. Annually arrived 2 large-scale agricultural enterprises of Yalta and its vicinities, many farm laborers and seasonal workers. So, in 1900 in the city 3610 alien workers are registered. By 1915 in the city paid spa facilities worked. 5 charitable sanatoria on 169 beds, clinical children's colony, a shelter on 24 places for TB patients, 3 private sanatoria, 14 hotels on 800 numbers, over 5 boards. In 1916 the Yalta Clinical Tubercular Institute is open. In Yalta doctors F.T. Stengive, the author of the capital work, Treatment of a Pulmonary Tuberculosis in Yalta, for whom degree of the Doctor of Medicine was awarded, worked. By the beginning of the 20th century in Yalta and the Yalta region, many representatives of the Russian nobility, including dukes of an imperial surname and monarchs, had dakhas and palaces. In May 1893, Yalta was withdrawn from line of the Jewish settled life. By 1913, the territory of the city stretched from Levadia to Massandra, and the population exceeded 30,000 people. The city was divided into 3 parts. Average, between the Darakoiga and Akansu rivers, made the so-called New City. On the right there was a Old City, at the left Zaraki High with the outskirts adjoining to him. The most brisk and attractive, the New City was well planned. In 1910 in Yalta there were 1842 residential buildings, including 1430 stone. Extent of streets was 32 versts, of them paved 0.4 versts. The downtown was lit with lamps. On 3 streets trees were planted.
In 1911, the city authorities, for the purpose of receiving additional money on development of Yalta, signed the contract with the Azov Bank and extend 2.5 million rubles among the population of the Bondave loan.
On this money it was planned to construct additional constructions of a city water supply system, the building of a city coursal, bathing institutions, the mountain station. But plans weren't fated to come true. Sharply changed political situation, war, revolution, again war, and change of political system interfered with life of the city. In 1914 in the city 2 gymnasiums are founded. In 1876, commercial school worked at courses of accounts department, and 9 lowest educational institutions, including Otsky Craft School. It is open in 1880. Biennial high courses of gardening and wine growing worked. To all Yalta there were 2 reading rooms and 4 paid libraries, 2 clubs and people's house, 4 cinematograph. The theatre with the hall on 450 viewers opened in July 1896.
In 1920, during civil war, after retreat of the Russian army of the General Wrangel and occupation of the Crimea Red in Yalta, Bolsheviks committed Massachusetts executions of the white officers and soldiers who gave up in captivity, and also all opponents of revolution who weren't in time to be activated.
According to some sources, in Yalta and vicinities during 1920 several tens of thousands of people were killed.
In 1921 the city was even renamed into Krasnoarmeysk, but in 1922 returned the former name. Thoroughly situation in Yalta after the February and October revolutions and the end of civil war changed. In November 1920 in the Crimea the remains of troops of White Guards were liquidated, and a month later 5.1.
Lenin signed in Moscow the decree about use of the Crimea for treatment of workers. Wonderful palaces and mansions had to pass to the people. The Tsar's Manor in Levadia became formally country sanatorium that received especially big response. Soon construction of new health resorts began.
The firstborn of the Yalta resort, the Sanatorium of the Lhasa, built in 1928, was constructed in the picturesque pine forest near the Gorge Akash.
Gorge of 3 mountains. The master plan of reconstruction Yuzhno Bureshia was developed. However, ruin after civil war, poverty and bad condition of the budget of the USSR didn't allow to be embodied to a set of plans. Palaces for many years stayed in desolation, especially Masandrovsky and Yusupov, which were struck off the list of sites. Foreign tourism for a long time disappeared. Improvement of the cities nobody was engaged in. On February 20, 1921, the first official Soviet resort season for the arrived patients was announced. In 1925, in the former Imperial Manor Levadia, the first country sanatorium was open, and at the bottom the Bear Mountain was based summer camp Arctic.
By the beginning of the 1940th years in Yalta and area 108 sanatoria and holiday houses almost affected 14,000 places where about 120,000 people annually were treated and had a rest.
From 1921 to 1941 on Yuzhnobreshi restored the health and 3.5 million people had a rest.
The Yalta port with the evacuated residents of Yalta wounded an asset of the party left on November 7, 1941 in the last flight the Armenia ship.
His sinking by the German aircraft led to death, by different estimates, from 5 to 7,000 people. In memory of the victims of Armenia, the board on the chapel of Cathedral of New Martyrs and Confessors on the embankment of Yalta is open. During occupation of the Crimea by the German troops,
Germans entered Yalta on November 7, 1941.
During the Great Patriotic War, the anti-Nazi underground worked in the city.
In Yalta, invaders created the Jewish ghetto, in which drove all Jewish population of the city minus 4,500 people.
By December 18, 1941, all of them were shot near Masandra. In the Yalta port since May 1942, connection of the Italian torpedo boats, the 4th Flotilla U under command of the Lieutenant Commander Francesco Membelli was based. The boat D-3 under command of future hero of the Soviet Union Kakiyevk, Shi, sank during raid on June 13, 1942 on the Yalta port the midget Italian Evs-5 submarine. From 1941 to 1944, Yalta was exposed to firings of the Soviet Black Sea Fleet and bombings of aircraft.
On November 7, 1943, fighters of group of Anton Mitsko hoisted the red colors over Yalta.
Except city underground workers, the Yalta 10th Group of the Southern Connection of the Crimean guerrillas, which together with parts of the Red Army released in April the 1944th Yalta worked.
On April 16, 1944, it is exempted from the German troops by the Soviet troops of separate seaside army and groups, the 7th crew of the Southern Connection of guerrillas of the Crimea during the Crimean operation. The 1st, the 323rd Guards Shooting Regiment of the 128th Mountain Division under command of Guard of the Lieutenant Colonel Jalil Natshabov rushed into the city.
The commander of the 7th Crew 50, A. Vapeman, and the commander of the 323rd Shooting Regiment J. B. Natshabov, honorable citizens of Yalta.
The name Yalta was appropriated to the 323rd Shooting Regiment for liberation of Yalta. Uplift with the text of the historical decree about use of the Crimea for treatment of workers, this deal to consummal the monument to the victims of deportation of the Crimean Tatar people, the monument in the form of a mast devoted to city rewarding with the Order of Friendship of the People.
On April 13, 1988. From February 4 to February 11, 1945 in Yalta, in the Levadia Palace there took place the Yalta Conference. On February 19, 1954 Yalta together with the Crimean region was transferred by the Allied authorities of the USSR to structure of USSR. In post-war years the city promptly grew and developed as the resort. From the second half of the 1950th years in the Yalta resort elite rest actively develops, there is a system of the state dakas. On the seashore in the lower Orianda the state dakas no. 1 and no. 2 were heads of the country NS. Khrushchev then 50.1. Brezhnev and others like to have a rest or under construction. The 1960th years in structure of Yalta included the settlements located nearby Avasal, Olkanderka. In the 1960th years the new Yuzhno-Brezhnoi highway which strongly truncated the road from Yalta to Alushta, Simferopol and Sevastopol since 1961 was built. Trolley bus traffic to Simferopol was open. The 1970th, the beginning of the 1980th years brought the high-rise construction which wasn't applied before in development of the resort. New multiple-story buildings of health resorts are built, some of them stayed unfinished before the beginning of the 21st century.
In the late 80s the resort of all Union Value had 180 sanatorium institutions. Annually to rest and treatment to Yalta there came about 2 million people. The reconstructed seaport began to accept heavy-tonnage passenger ships, and the cargo port in the summer of 1986 moved together with the powerful port cranes out of the city to moorings of the Masandrovsky beam.
Throughout 35 km of the coast of Big Yalta for these years big against landslide and shore protection works are carried out. Process of destruction of the coast and beaches as a result slowed down, new beaches appeared. However, from all sanatorium institutions of Yalta only 31 on 13,000 places labor unions possessed, the others, to various allied departments. These sanatoria were placed in a coastal zone behind high fences, their territories and beaches were inaccessible for other vacationers. In the late 80s on the southern coast in Foros the last Soviet state giving the Don connected with a name of the first and last president of the SRM, Gorbachev was built. On April 13, 1988 the city was awarded with the Order of Friendship of the People. In March 1988 the cableway conducting on Mountain Top was open understand.
By the end of the 1990th years in Yalta on the outskirts of the city and also on undeveloped sites there was a set of the larders and cottages constructed in a private order.
In 1992 as the museum was restored the Masandrovsky Palace. The 21st century. Embankment of Yalta. Since the beginning of the old years reconstruction of almost all coast of Yalta began. Many beaches excepting today thousands of people were created and reconstructed. So-called wild beaches were improved and brought into accord with many international standards. The Masandrovsky beach even got the prestigious award Blue Flag. In 2003 restoration of Yaltinskaya embankment which turned her into the shopping street and also into the place of Massachusetts festivities was ended.
In 2009 on the embankment of Yalta the chapel memorial consecrated for the sake of Cathedral of New Martyrs and Confessors Russian in memory of all innocently murdered at the time of hard times, civil and domestic wars was built.
It was constructed near the place where there was a wooden chapel of Saint Alexander Nevsky, demolished in 1932, built in the memory of the Emperor Alexander II, killed by terrorists. On March 18, 2014, Yalta, as a component of the educated Republic of Crimea, was annexed to the Russian Federation. Yalta very quickly gained popularity among residents of the former USSR. Long-time rest in Yalta was simpler, because of a bezvizovist, and eventually is cheaper for citizens of the CIS, and since the beginning middle of the odd years became also cheaper than rest in the Russian resorts. Attracts residents of the former USSR as well the medical nature of Yalta. For January 1, 2021 on population, the city was in the 212th place from 1116 cities of the Russian Federation. The national structure of the population approximately following. 2001, the city of Yalta without subordinates of any to the city council. The Russian -67%. Ukrainians -27%. Belarusians -2%. The Crimean Tatars -1%. Others -3%. For the intercensus period. Since 1989. Its share of Jews in the population was reduced and makes 0.3% on the city council. The share of the Crimean Tatars, on the contrary, grew to 1.3% within the city council. Both phenomena are explained by repatriation. Jews, from the Crimea to Israel, and the Crimean Tatars from Central Asia to the Crimea.
Change of a ratio of Russians and Ukrainians are connected with local processes of change of national identity, and migrations aren't result.
Coat of arms. The decision of a session of the Yalta City Council No. 162 of September 29, 2005 approved a municipal coat of arms of Yalta. The board cut the right field is crossed 6 times by 4 red and 3 blue strips. The left field red, in the center the going golden lion with the head turned back. In blue chapter Skresheny gold branches of laurels and grapes are put. The board on a cartouche is topped with a gold crown of advantage and a palm branch. Chatar Sateli. Seahorses hold under a board a silver tape with the motto gold letters. Yalta Arbs Meridialis. The translation of the motto into Russian from Latin. Yalta Southern Capital. It is developed by Sergei Milikumov.
In 2015, the solution of the favorites after annexation of the Crimea to the Russian Federation of the Yalta City Council of February 13, 2015 No.
19 made changes to the coat of arms. Color of the field from red is changed to purple, the cartouche is excluded, the form of an exchange tape is changed, and the text of the motto is translated into Russian. The heraldic description of the coat of arms is
quadrangular with the rounded off bottom corners. The heraldic
Russian
word pointed in the extremity, cut.
The right field is crossed 6 times by 4 purple and 3 azure strips. Left field purple.
In board heart the imposed standing gold turned back line.
In azure chapter Skresheny gold branches of laurels and grapes are put. The board is topped with a gold 3-headed tower of advantage and a golden palm. Chatar Sateli, the gold seahorses holding tails under a board, a silver exchange tape with an inscription, the gold letters, Southern Capital. Flag.
The decision of a session of the Yalta City Council in 2005 approved a flag of the city of Yalta.
A square panel, consisting of two horizontal strips blue and striped red. Ratio of width of these strips and a half. In a blue strip crescent gold branches of laurels and grapes are put. The striped red strip consists of two fields. The field closest to a staff is crossed 7 times by 4 red and 3 blue strips. Field red, closest to the bottom free edge. In the center the going golden lion with the head turned back. In 2015 No.
19 was approved by dissolution of the favorites after annexation of the Crimea to the Russian Federation of the Yalta City Council of February 13, 2015. A new flag of the city district of Yalta.
Rectangular panel with a ratio of width to length 2:3, which consists of 2 horizontal strips of equal width. From top to down. Gold, purple. In the center the big coat of arms is placed. The anthem of Yalta, approved on August 8, 1995 under the name Southern Capital, is written by the poet Anatoly Musorgsky and the composer Vladimir Kotin. Fragment of the text. I want to argue that on the Black Sea, there is no city more beautiful with the imperial track. You can be convinced the Southern Capital. You will arrive here as to yourself home. Economy. The climate and the nature of vegetation corresponding to it caused the direction of agriculture in the Yalta vicinities. Here grow up grapes and tobacco of good grades, peaches, quince, almonds, lavender and other cultures. Agricultural production specializes also in wine growing. High quality grades, Muscat, white, black, pink, Cabernet, Toka, Saperav, Pin and other. On the southern coast still olive and nut trees are grown up here and there. Meanwhile both olive and walnut were delivered on Yub by Greeks. The industry of the region is represented by 17 enterprises. The enterprises of the food industry develop 95% of volume industrial products. In particular winemaking -42%, the fish industry -19%. In the territory of Big Yalta, widely known National Production and Agrarian Association, Masandra. It is based at the beginning of the 20th century. The state enterprises, Levadia, and Gurov, which are a part of association, and also the Empire, Masandra, main plant is located.
In the territory of Big Yalta in the settlement of Danilovka there is a winemaking economy of Chateau Côtes de Saint-Daniel. The winemaking economy is in the place of the old Odanilsky wine vault put by the Count Vorontsov in 1832.
The imperial wine vault was damaged at an earthquake and was destroyed in the middle of the last century. Restored it in 2007, having kept former architectural appearance. Agricultural production is also presented by such processing enterprises as GG, Gurov, Shiji, Levadia, Luch Fish Farm. Construction is presented by the enterprises Krimspetskadorostro. There is a lot of financial organizations in the city. It is necessary to distinguish heavyweights of the banking sector from them: Bank Rossiya, Runak Gen Bank. There are also some other, smaller banks. Since 2000 in Yalta there is an official program for fight against poverty.
In 2008 Yalta came to the second place in the Crimea on key indicators which characterize the standard of living of the population.
And the wage level was slightly higher than average values across the Crimea, and the employment level and unemployment minimum for 2011, 0.5%. Official figures in 2009 indicated that many Yaltanets, very rather poor people, especially those someone are engaged in the private sector of production. Average Yalta salary in the first half of the year 2012 was 25-22 hryvnias. City budget of Yalta is scarce. So in 2012, budget revenues are planned at the level of 456.2 million hryvnias, and expenses minus 511 million hryvnias. In cost breakdown of 36.1% will make expenses on health sector, 28.1%, on education, 7.5%, on the maintenance of executive authorities. One of the main income items of the Yalta budget is tourism.
During the season here, only according to official statistics without savages, about 2 million people have a rest. That makes about a third of all tourists coming to the Crimea within a year.
From January to August 2012, 487.7 million of taxes and fees came to a consolidated budget from the Yalta taxpayers. It for 58 million is more than in previous year.
By 2014 in Yalta, opening of the 5-star Hotel Hilton constructed on the place of Sanatorium Sevastopol, which is located in Primorsk, the park was planned. The new high-rise building will be located at
Yalta, the Park of Gagarin, 3. The hotel was open, however in connection with the Western sanctions the hotel was sold to other company. On September 19, 2012 it became known of the new project of the city administration on reconstruction of the Yalta embankment worth 20 million hryvnias.
It is planned to repair capitally a concrete construction of the Bader fountain and a sculpture, and also to reconstruct and arrange well the adjacent territory with installation of small architectural forms.
In the same day, on September 19, 2012, Yalta became known of allocation 2 million hryvnias from the state budget of Ukraine on electrification of the Energoy array in the residential district Darsan. In 2013 in Yalta 290,000 people have a rest. Is 9.8% more than for the same period of last year. As a result, receipts of a tourist tax in local budgets reached
1.8 million hryvnias. That there is also more indicator of the same period of 2012. In 2015, for the second year after annexation of the Crimea to Russia, in Yalta 1 million people have a rest in a year.
Besides, the occupancy of hotels, boarding houses, country houses and sanatoria considerably increased, and city budget for the first time for many years stopped being scarce. Transport. The nearest airport and the station are in the city of Simferopol, to which distance makes about 80 km. Between Yalta and Simferopol there is regular bus, both regular buses and share taxis. Also trolleybus traffic. Despite the lack of the station and the airport in Yalta, there are both railway and aviation cash desks. Since 1961 the long-distance trolleybus Simferopol-Aleshta-Yalta line, unique for the Sisis works routes. From Yalta to Simferopol. No. 52 to the railway station and no. 55 to the airport. From Yalta to Yalta, no. 53, from Yalta to Krasnokamenka, no. 41. Big Yalta has the developed transport infrastructure which serves needs of the resort.
The main thing overland transport arteries are highways Simferopol, Yalta, Yalta and Sevastopol, Yalta, Yalta, Feodosia.
Enter into structure of transport and communication.
Crimean Directorate of State of Emergency, Telecommunication, Yalta Sea Trade Port.
Sea Transport Service provides the Yalta Sea Trade Port which accepts cargo and passenger. In particular cruise vessels. The Yalta Cargo Trade Port provides processing and sending freights, coasting and international transport. The marina nowadays doesn't function, and from the Yalta Pier the walking boats transporting vacationers and residents of Yalta along the southern coast of the Crimea regularly depart.
On October 2011, the service of highways of the Crimea by results of the tender signed the contract with NL's Baymimi Planeta, most for overhaul of the road Kharkiv, Simferopol, Yalta, Yalta, Radiant to the road Yalta, the Bag Perch, Feodosia for 19,130,000 RON.
On April 12, 2012 it was announced plans of creation of service of the electrotaxi for Yalta. According to the plan, this type of transport will go from Gurov to Foros and not only within the cities and settlements, but also on mountain roads too. It is planned to buy 150 such vehicles. Cars will be capable to pass 80-100 kilometers on the charged battery.
Also for own means, investors plan to build network of the 15 new electrogas stations which will be located across all territory of Big Yalta.
In May 2012 plans for construction of the bypass road guards, DPR, Yalta were published.
It is planned that the new route will pass bypassing the capital of the Crimea and 20 more settlements which are located on the route Kharkiv, Simferopol, Yalta, Yalta. Extent of the road will be about 97 kilometers, 8 of which a road tunnel.
Presumable project cost will reach 17 billion hryvnias.
In July 2012, the international company, Royal Caribbean International, announced readiness to finance reconstruction of the port of Yalta and the airport Simferopol.
The total amount of investments can be about $500 million. In June 2013 at Orionda Hotel and Tourist Information Center, the first parking on 10 bicycles opened. Water supply. On slopes of the mountain Mogabi several reservoirs are located. Karagal and Top Mogabinsko with the lower Mogabinsky on the river Wachansu. The Top Mogabinsky Lake is a reservoir, enters the water supply system of Yalta. For 2020 problems with water supply led to water supply restriction till 6 o'clock in day. 3 hours in the morning and as much in the evening. Building of desalination installation are planned. Construction of the second turn of a hydrotunnel is conducted. Then reconstruction of the first stage will be made. Communication. In the city, 2 mobile operators of the GANs eminence. 3G. Standard work. K Telecom working under the WIN trademark and Krim Telecom and one operator of the CM standard Intertelecom. In the city of Yalta the internet is rather developed. The wire covering covers practically all city. Providers offer unlimited tariffs with speeds up to 100 Mbit/sec. In August 2012 the mayor of Yalta Alexei Boyarchuk, who was at the time declared creation until the end of a month of Wi-Fi of a zone on the embankment of the city and also on bus station. 8 points of access earned from the embankment on September 4, 2012. In Yalta 26 comprehensive schools. 16540 pupils. Evening school. 1020 pupils. 30 kindergartens. 1890 children. 6 out-of-school institutions. 3,800 children. 5 teaching and educational complexes, school, kindergarten, school, kindergarten, no. 15 with training at Ukrainian, an experimental teaching and educational complex, school of the future, function. In Yalta also 1 state higher educational institution, the Crimean Humanities University and also other educational institutions, in particular medical college works. Professional education represents the only thing in Big Yalta the state professional educational institution 3 of certification level which carries out training of skilled workers of shots and junior experts.
Crimean Republican Professional Educational Institution, Yalta highest professional school of construction and food technologies.
Cultural capacity of Big Yalta: the Alupka Palace and Park Complex, the Levadia Palace Museum, the Masandrovsky Palace Museum, the Yalta Historical Literary Museum, a Chekhov's House Museum, park complexes in Masandar, Miskor and Forods, the Nikitsky Botanical Garden, the Yalta Zoo, the Crimean Film Studio Yalta Film Theatre of a Chekhov, the Center of Organ Music Levadia, the Concert Hall, Anniversary, the Centralized Library System, a Pushkin's Museum in Gurov Make, Lesa Ukrainka's Museum and others. The most popular Massachusetts city actions are the Crimean Winter, the Winter Sea, sports festivals dated for a city day. In the summer Yalta becomes one of the centers of cultural life. The festival on a breakdance of Yalta Summer Jam brings together thousands of dancers in every summer and unites many people from the different CIS countries. Here festivals of theatre and cinema are held. The International Folklore Festival, since 1999. The International Telefilm Forum, together since 2000. The International Festival of Classical Music of A Planet Star, the International Organ Levadia Fest Festival, the festival Sea of Friends, near the Black Sea, a festival of barman art, freestyle, and other.
Since 1999 the Yalta Festival of Fireworks, which takes place usually in the run-up to the City Day of Yalta.
The second week of August became annual. In the city 285 public associations of citizens, from them -17 regional offices of political parties and 57 religious organizations are registered. In the city there is the Jewish community since 1861. And a synagogue to the address Blucher Street 4.
Yalta is also the only city of the post-Soviet region where there are commemorative plaques devoted to international language of Esperanto.
2 commemorative plaques are established to pioneers of the Esperantist movement. 2m.
Brovko and 1.
Ostrovsky. The commemorative plaque is established to Dr. 1. Ostrovsky on his house. In 1905 he first got permission to edition Russian of the newspaper and with own hand edited it. He on the first World Congress of Esperantists initiated official acceptance of Esperanto flag. The commemorative plaque of Esperanto writer of M. Brovko is established on the building of the first city library which director he was, M. Brovko was always on the lips the original author of the original short stories of Esperanto which arose in La Esperantisto. On September 19, 2012 the Program of Protection of Fauna and Regulation of Number of Homeless Animals for 2013-2020 was adopted. The necessity of her development was caused by a significant amount of homeless animals in the city that in turn leads to deterioration in a sanitary and epidemiologic and epizootic state and also quality of life of inhabitants and city visitors. By estimates of the author of the document, now in the territory of Yalta about 3,000 homeless animals live. Sport. In the city 35 sports organizations function. Sports sections on 21 sports, from them 12 types Olympic. Famous Yalta athletes. 50. Osmanova. Powerlifting. A. Vedenmer. Rock climbing. A. Risnik. Kickboxing. By. Solodkov. Thai boxing. R. Zagorodnyuk. Boxing. The Gorodashny Sport National Team of Yalta. The captain A. Babich. Since 2001 Yalta hosts World Cup competitions in the mixed martial arts. Participants compete in such types of fight as a Kung Fu, fighting Sambo, Thai boxing and the mixed martial arts. In September 2011 the Yalta Federation of Equestrian Sport announced construction plans in Yalta of horse racing base. In February 2012 the city authorities allocated 4 hectares of the earth under construction of the cycle park. It is planned to build 6 sports routes and also the rock climbing wall, a skate park, mountain boards, a Porlanovi hall for athletes who learn to do tricks. Every year in Yalta there take place training camps and then sports rock climbing competitions. To these competitions there come thousands of fans of the sport, both participants and just the audience.
Mainly fans of this extreme occupation are attracted by the following routes which are on the southern coast of the Crimea.
Skala Pergamon, Skala Redstone, Nikitsky Rocks, Cross, Alem, Arbor, Kat, Wall of the Massif Afperi, Shankaya, Alupka Wall, Kastropolsky Wall and others.
From 2005 to 2013 the annual Rally Yalta, which was included into the calendar of the Championship of Ukraine on Rally, was carried out.
In 2011 and 2012 of Rally Yalta entered the calendar of the International Racing Intercontinental Rally Challenge (IRC) series.
On September 22, 2012 in Yalta there took place the 2 World Cup in an armlifting according to WA.
Raising of the rotating rolling tandem handle. From October 4 to October 8, 2012 in Yalta there took place the International Summer Polyathlon competitions. Competitions will take place in 3 sports disciplines. The first discipline, firing from pneumatic weapon, the second, swimming competitions, and the third, track and field athletics.
From October 5 to October 8, 2012 in Yalta there passed the stage of competitions in high-speed cycle descent, Red Bull the Big Duel.
Extent of the route is 1.2 thousand meters, with the finish on the Yalta embankment. The route is full of abrupt mountain turns, narrow drives of city streets, springboards. Competitions will take place under the direction of the Crimean Parliament and the government, and also the Yalta City Council. In the city there is a set of sports clubs, training and dance halls, pools. Healthcare. Yalta, along with Alashta, is the largest climatic seaside resort of Europe. In the region all types of institutions of medical and improving sanatorium character by total 144 on 39,000 places. From them 115 on 34.7 thousand places. Winter, year-round, functioning or presented. Belong to spa facilities of Big Yalta. 70 sanatoria and boarding houses, 16 holiday houses, 17 boarding houses. From them 5 under the authority of labor unions, 2 of them with treatment in the 1988 years. 18 recreation facilities, including seasonal. 8 improving. Children's camps, 4 tourist bases and campings, mountain club. 19 campsites in the 1988 years. About 7.5 thousand places. In Big Yalta. 11 hotels. Houses of works of writers and figures of theatre. The largest complexes of the sanatorium sphere, Yalta in tourist hotels, Hotel Orionda, Palmyropolis, Emts Arctic, Vorontsova Holiday House, and there are a lot of others. The resort polyclinic has the medical beach. Night sleep by the sea in Klimato Paviljona is carried out in particular. Also sanatorium patients. Photoria and Galitoria, physiotherapeutic office with a balneary. C. Coniferous, carbonic bathtubs, medical sols. Offices of physiotherapy, exercises and massage use the beach. Function the covered swimming pool with seawater, the outdoor pool for medical swimming. It is organized outpatient treatment. In total here about 2 million people have annually a rest and is treated. The 1988 years. Without savages, which about the same during an estivo-autumnal season, the warm sea, beaches, a steady sunny weather, abundance of cafe, dining rooms, restaurants attract about 2 million vacationers coming without permits. The former mayor of Yalta, Alexei Boyarchuk, considers that the medicine, namely construction of the closed clinics on cosmetic and plastic surgery, has to be the main direction of investments. For September 2012, Yalta is the leader of the Crimea in number of deaths from a stroke. The chief neurologist of the Yalta City Hospital, Sergei Olevarenko, calls some of the reasons of such high mortality low desire of patients to be treated preventively, old age and small availability to permanent drug treatment due to the lack of means in a hospital and high cost of drugs. In June 2016 in Yalta on Moskovskaya Street, the modern center of Mir Diagnostics, Yalta, opened. Science. The Crimea, the region with rare climate and unique conditions for existence of special local flora and fauna. So in 1812, with assistance of the Duke Richelieu and the Count Vorontsov, the first scientific institution in the spirit of trends of the time, Imperial Tavricheski State Botanical Garden, was created. In 1828 on its base the Magaretsky State Institution as independent education for studying of problems of wine growing and winemaking was allocated. From 1868 to 1904 in Yalta Dmitriev 5. N. The famous doctor climatologist lived and worked. He built the meteorological station, the first on the southern coast of the Crimea, having laid the foundation for studying of climatic conditions and also developed bases of acclimatogeny and treatment by grapes. Now, the scientific capacity of Big Yalta is represented by 5 research and scientific institutions. The Institute of Grapes and Magarek Wine. Since 2016, Verbund Magarek RAS has the extensive collection of grades of grapes which is territorially located in various regions of the Crimea, a collection of microorganisms for winemaking, carries out research activity in various fields of wine growing and winemaking. The State Nikitsky Botanical Garden. Since 2016, Verbund Ends RAS has a collection from nearly 18,000 types, versions, forms of plants, including in a herbarium street. 100,000 sheets. Copies. Wild and cultural plants. Scientific Research Institute of Balneology and Physical Therapy of Sechenov.
Yalta Institute of Physical Methods of Treatment and Medical Climatology of I.M.
Sechenov. Yalta branch of the Crimean Scientific Research Institute of Design. Krimny Project. Yalta branch of Krimkaror Project. The Yalta strong point on tobacco studying is nowadays included into structure Verbund Magarek. Seismic Station, Yalta. It began work on March 13, 1928, and Albert Hristoforovich Polom became her first manager. Developments and the recommendations of scientists in the field of agriculture take root first of all in the Crimea and in particular, at the plants and in-state farms of glorified Masandra. Besides, for fuller implementation of educational and scientific activity of local population, in Yalta the large network of libraries, including taking into account scientific and potential fund of works of the listed institutions, is located. Sites: St. Alexander Nevsky's Cathedral Church of St. Jean Chrysostom the Armenian Church of St. Ripsheim the Roman Catholic Church on Pushkinskaya Avenue. Created as the vacation spot of the Russian nobility, Yalta consists of the manors and mansions entered in a mountain landscape and united among themselves by later building. Small streets of Yalta quite curve and tangled that gives the chance to make on them rather long walks. There is a set of buildings of the end of the beginning of the 20th century. Yalta was the favorite vacation spot of the Russian aristocracy which stretched on the southern coast of the Crimea after the imperial family which based here manors the Oryanda and Levadia. It is remarkable that the area of Yalta is so hilly that walks on the city can be tiresome even for young people. Also, the inaccuracy of local maps takes place. For example, the distance from the embankment of Yalta to the Masandrovsky Palace on roads makes about 3 kilometers, however to overcome it on foot extremely hard that ties almost all tourists to public transport. The Palace of the Emir Bukhara Winds Theatre and the Crimea, the building of the former swimming baths on the embankment.
Nowadays Sofia Rotaru Hotel.
The house with caryatids. Some of the most interesting places of Yalta. Swimming baths to Rafa. The city embankment restored in 2003-2004.
The Armenian church constructed in 1909-1917 by the architect Kermakalian on similarity of Church of Saint Rip Simon Akhmiadzin and painted inside with the outstanding Armenian artist Vargas Sirenians.
Zagorodnaya Street. Roman Catholic Church of Immaculate Conception of Virgin Mary. Pushkinskaya Street. Center of Organ Music Levadia. Bacharina Street. The Yalta Cableway, which lower station is near the building of Taurida Hotel, conducting on dome-shaped hill Darsan. 140 m. From which the panorama of the city embankment opens. The reconstructed hotel, Taurida High *. John Chrysostom's temple with the Zolotov Lazy Bell Tower. Tolstoy Street. Alexander Nevsky's temple. It is constructed on the project of architects N.P. Krasnev and P.K. Terbenyev. Sadovaya Street.
The former general building of sanatorium of the Ministry of Defense, built in style of the Gothic lock.
Sverdlov Street. Palace of the Emir Bukhara. Now building of sanatorium. Communarov Street. Zoo Fairy Tale. Kirov Street. The building in Mauritian style, Ekaterinskaya Street. 8 where Lesa Ukrainka stopped. A.P.
Chekhov's House Museum, Yalta Aquarium, Cube, Theater of Marine Animals, Water Area, Fantastic Park, Glade of Fairy Tales.
Museums. Yalta Historical Literary Museum. Yelm, Yalta, Pushkinskaya Street. Department of Yelm, the culture of Yalta, the end of 19th, the beginning of the 20th centuries. Yalta, Ekaterinskaya Street. Literary and Memorial House Museum of N.Z. Buryukov. Yelm Branch, Yalta, Krasnoarmeyskaya Street. 1A. Museum Park, Glade of Fairy Tales. Kirov Street. Museum of Sculpture and Floristics. Chekhov's House Museum. Yalta, Kirov Street. 112. Lesa Ukrainka's Museum. Department of Yelm, Yalta, Ekaterinskaya Street. House Museum of Musical Culture of a name of the composer Alexander Spendiarov. Zoos and other. Zoo Fairy Tale.
Theater of Marine Animals, Water Area.
Settlement. Rape.
Yalta Aquarium, Pushkinskaya Avenue.
Yalta Grafsky Drive.
Yalta Museum of Butterflies, Pushkinskaya Avenue.
Yalta Dolphinarium. Earlier in Yalta worked. Department of Holography. Yalta, Pushkinskaya Street.
Konstantin Trenyov and Piet Pavlenko's Literary and Memorial Museum.
Yalta, Pavlenko Street. Yalta State Circus, Moskovskaya Street. 31. It is destroyed at the initiative of the Yalta City Council. Yalta Film Studio, Yalta, Mukin Street. 3. It is sold out in parts at the initiative of Fund of Property of the Ark and the Yalta City Council. Sites of Big Yalta. Levadia Vorontsov Palace, Palace Masandrovsky Swallow's Nest Palace. Dvorets Golitsina, Carreras Dvorets Dialber, Carreras Imeni Horrocks in Carreras Dvorets Kikin, Carreras. Church of the Resurrection in Foros St. Archistratiga Mikhail's Temple over the Oryanda Baydarsky Gate, Foros the Nikitsky Botanical Garden. Levadia Palace Museum and also Levadia Park.
Yalta, Levadia.
Alupka Palace and Park Complex. Alupka. Alexander III's Palace.
Yalta, Massandra.
Estate Swallow's Nest. Gaspra. The Yusupov Palace in Carreras. Palace Kikin, Carreras. Manor of Horrocks in the Haraksky Park. Palace Dialber, Carreras. Palace Golitsina, Carreras. Church of the Resurrection, Foros.
St. Archistratiga Mikhail's Temple over the Oryanda.
Baydarsky Gate. Foros. Kastropolsky Wall. Coastal. House to the Duke Armand Emmanuel de Richelieu. Gurov. Nikitsky Botanical Garden. Skala Adalara near Gurov. Rock Redstone. Krasnokamenka. Gore Petri. Nantan to Aidag.
Nantan Lake Karagal, Yalta.
The rocket sail which departed from the coast. Gasper. Nantan Cat, Rock of the Miracle. Samiz. Reserve Cape Markin. Wachangsu Falls. Imperial. Solar. Track the leader from Levadia to Gaspra. Park of Sanatorium Yesnaya Poliana. Monuments. Pamyotnik to A.S.
Pushkin on Pushkinskaya Avenue, Pamyotnik to Maxim Gorky before the seaside park of Bayou.
A.
Yagorina Pamyotnik 5.1.
Lenina Pamyotnik to Franklin Roosevelt. In the city there are a lot of monuments, the most part from them is established during the modern period. Among the most known monuments to A.S. Pushkin to A.P. Chekhov. 2 monuments. A. Kansonkov, Maxim Gorky. 5.1. Lenin T.G. Shevchenko, Lesa Ukrainka. There is also a set of memorable steels, plaques, figurines.
On August 21, 2012, reconstruction of the square opposite to Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, within which the monument to the soldiers internationalists who died in hot spots will be established, began. According to the deputy of the mayor Alena Yurchenko, the chairman of City Society of Veterans of the Afghan War Afghanistan Valery Mukin handled this idea to the mayor of Yalta Alexei Boachuk. On September 29, 2012 in Yalta, the monument to the famous writer and publicist Yulian Semyonov, whose author was an academician of the Russian Academy of Arts, the national artist of the Russian Federation Alexander Rukavishnikov, was open.
On February 15, 2013, the monument to Afghan soldiers and combatants abroad is open.
On February 5, 2015, the monument to the Big Three, near the Levadia Palace, was open. On November 18, 2017, the monument to the Emperor Alexander III in the park of the Levadia Palace is open.
Monument to the Big Three.
Churchill, Roosevelt, Stalin. In the territory of the Levadia Chekhov Palace and its The Lady with the Dog, on the Yalta Pamyatnik embankment to Alexander Kanzhonkov, the founder of Yalta Film Studio, the monument to E.P.
Chekhov in Primorsky Park. In literature and art. Grigory Mysoidov's picture, Pier in Yalta, 1890. In Yalta are developed. Action of the comic play of P.A. Vazemsky, meeting in Yalta, 1867. Events of the story of A.P. Chekhov, The Lady with the Dog. Action of the play of I.A. Brodsky is devoted to Yalta. Action of the movie of Sergei Solovyev of As. Action of a part of the movie, Crew. Action of almost all modern series, Matchmakers 4. Action of the story of Mikhail Rashchina, Bunin in Yalta. Events of the work Vlosadoroshevicha, Yalta. Events of the story Blues of Autumn, Yalta of Irina Potanina. Part of actions of the novel Russian Beauty. Finally, Irina Potanina. Part of an event of the story Sobriety Society of the Russian and Soviet children's writer I.D. Vasilenko, 1964. And also Voland in the latest revision of Master and Margarita, froze in Yalta from Moscow to Lebedev Steppe. Pussycat Vorobyaninov and Ostap Bender appear in Yalta in search of the next chair, with diamonds in one. Elf and E. Petrov's novel, 12 Chairs. In Yalta. In Miskar. There is an action of the work of Alexander Kaprin, A White Poodle. In Yalta, the video to the January Blizzard Rings song from the movie Ivan Vasilievich Changes a Profession is shot. In Yalta, a punk rock The Red Mold group is based called Prussian. The poem by A. Brodsky, In the Winter Evening in Yalta, is devoted to the city. In Yalta Film Studio, shootings of a set of the Soviet movies for imitation of tropical climate or rich life were carried up. For shootings, the Yup Palaces, the Nikitsky Botanical Garden, Temerdsky, Dolan of Ghosts and other places were used. Honorable citizens. Since July 15, 2011, the rank of the Honorable Citizen of Yalta can be given to one person only once a year and is exclusive at the session preceding the City Day of Yalta. At the moment, Honorable Citizens of Yalta are about 40 people. Among them, to Rotor Sofia Mikhailovna. Since 1975. The singer, the honored actress of the USA, the Ukrainian Sir and Moldavian Sir, Hero of Ukraine. Bogatakov, Yuri Yosifovich is a singer, the people's artist of the USSR. Kirkorov, Philip Bedrosovich is a singer, the composer and the producer, the people's artist of the Russian Federation. Kuzmin, Vasily Mikhailovich, the participant of the Great Patriotic War, the hero of the Soviet Union. Nazatov, Galia Gmetovich, the participant of the Great Patriotic War, the hero of the Soviet Union. Pugovkin, Mikhail Ivanovich, 1923-2008. Is a stage and film actor, the people's artist of CCC. Rasatkin, Pyotr Alexievich is a colonel, the hero of the Soviet Union.
Saidat Balakatkin is the ninth Bukhara emir from the Uzbek dynasty of Mangak ruling in 1885-1910.
Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.